He's back, and he's not staying silent. Dean Ambrose just made his shocking return to WWE Raw and went straight for Paul Heyman. After years of absence, the unhinged Lunatic Fringe stormed back into the spotlight, igniting a fiery confrontation that left fans stunned and the WWE Universe shaken. What does this mean for the future of Raw? Is a new war brewing between Ambrose and Heyman's allies? In this video, we break down Dean Ambrose's explosive return, the intensity of his face-off with Paul Heyman, and what this could mean for future WWE storylines. Get ready for twists, chaos, and a return that changes everything. Has Dean Ambrose finally crossed the line between memory and madness? Tonight, the WWE Universe is reeling, speechless, stunned, and still trying to comprehend what just unfolded under the lights of Monday Night Raw. Because the man they once called the Lunatic Fringe is back. And he didn't come for applause. He came for vengeance. For nearly 4 years, Dean Ambrose had vanished. No returns. No interviews. No teases. Just a void, cold, vast, and filled with silence. And in that silence, questions grew louder. Was he done with wrestling for good? Had he buried the war-torn memories of his Shield days? Had the man who once fought Roman Reigns in an empty arena truly let go of the world that both made and broke him? The answer came crashing through the arena like a storm. No music. No pyro. Just chaos. One moment, Paul Heyman was in the ring, arrogant as ever, delivering one of his signature sermons about dominance, power, and his so-called undisputed legacy. The next, a shadow emerged from the crowd, a figure cloaked in black, eyes wild, jaw clenched, moving like a ghost who had finally come to settle old debts. And in that split second, everyone knew, Dean Ambrose had returned. But this was not the Ambrose we remembered. This was not the cheeky, scruffy anti-hero who made us laugh with his unpredictability. This version of Ambrose was scorched by absence, unhinged by betrayal, and carried an aura of something darker, something irrevocable. When he lunged at Heyman, the entire arena erupted. The blow was sudden, sharp, and raw. Security rushed, chaos unfolded, and Heyman, the master manipulator, for once looked truly afraid, and maybe he should be. Because if the whispers are true, Ambrose didn't just come back to settle scores. He came back with a mission, and Paul Heyman is only the first name on his list. Backstage sources are already calling it one of the most shocking moments in recent WWE history. Not just because Ambrose returned, but because of how he returned. He didn't ask for a contract signing. He didn't wait for a storyline. He tore the script apart and rewrote it in real time, with his fists. And for those who know Ambrose best, that says everything, because Dean Ambrose has never followed the rules. He's never obeyed hierarchy. And he certainly doesn't play well with factions built on manipulation and deceit. So why Paul Heyman? To answer that, we have to rewind, far beyond tonight, far beyond the steel barricades and commentary tables. We have to return to the moment when the bonds between brothers were broken. When the Shield disbanded, it wasn't just the end of a faction. It was the death of a family. Roman Reigns pursued legacy. Seth Rollins chased gold. And Dean Ambrose, he disappeared into smoke. But before he left, before he walked out of the WWE, he left behind a wound. A wound that Heyman exploited, whispering into the ears of those who remained, filling their heads with promises of power, alliances, and invincibility. Heyman watched Ambrose walk away and never looked back, because in his world, weakness isn't mourned. It's replaced, and tonight, that philosophy came back to haunt him. As Paul Heyman lay dazed outside the ring, clutching his ribs, his microphone splintered, his words silenced. It became clear this was not just a grudge. This was a declaration: Dean Ambrose is back. And he's not just aiming for Heyman, he's aiming for the empire Heyman built. Rumors are swirling that Ambrose has returned not just as a lone wolf, but as the harbinger of something far more dangerous, a counter-movement. A rebellion. A fracture in the glass empire that Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, and even Seth Rollins once called home. One WWE producer reportedly heard Ambrose backstage whisper to a crew member, "You can't fix what's broken. You burn it." Another source claims that before Raw went live, security was given new protocols. An uninvited name had been spotted in the building, traveling under an alias. That name? Jonathan Good. But it wasn't until the lights hit that the WWE audience realized what that name really meant. Dean Ambrose had returned, and he had chosen chaos as his currency. Fans have flooded social media with disbelief. Clips of the attack have already garnered millions of views. The look on Paul Heyman's face as he staggered away. The intensity in Ambrose's eyes. The way no security guard dared touch him until the moment passed, because that's what Dean Ambrose does. He doesn't arrive with fanfare. He arrives with destruction. And in his wake, he leaves questions that no authority figure, not Triple H, not Adam Pearce, not even Paul Heyman, can immediately answer. Is Ambrose back for good? Or is this a one-man war destined to collapse before it begins? And perhaps the bigger question, is he here to rebuild the Shield, or to destroy everything that ever came from it? The tension isn't just in the locker room now. It's in the crowd. It's in the commentary. It's in the air. Because Ambrose's return is a message to everyone who thought the past had been buried. To every wrestler who aligned with Heyman's vision. To every faction that grew comfortable in the power vacuum left by Ambrose's silence. He was watching. He was waiting. And now, he's moving. We've seen shocking returns before. Edge. CM Punk. Bray Wyatt. But this is different. Because Dean Ambrose didn't return for nostalgia. He returned for retribution. He's not the same man who once rolled in the ring with a smirk and a lunatic laugh. He's older now. Sharper. Colder. And that makes him infinitely more dangerous. Tonight, Raw wasn't just another episode. It was the beginning of a reckoning, and as Paul Heyman is reportedly being treated in a private medical facility, WWE officials are scrambling to respond. Will Ambrose be sanctioned? Suspended? Or will they do what they always do when something unpredictable breaks their scripted world, turn it into a storyline? But how do you script a man who refuses to be controlled? One former WWE insider, who worked with Ambrose during his early years in FCW, said it best: Dean never left wrestling. Wrestling left him. And now he's come back to collect what's owed. As for Heyman, no statement has been made. But sources close to him suggest he's shaken, not just physically, but psychologically. Because the man who built his career around psychological warfare may have finally met someone who doesn't play mind games, he plays for keeps. What's more chilling is what wasn't said. Dean Ambrose never picked up a microphone. He didn't cut a promo. He didn't explain himself. He simply acted. And sometimes, silence is more terrifying than 1,000 words. The WWE Universe is holding its breath. Is Seth Rollins next? Roman Reigns? Could Ambrose be targeting the very foundation of what's left of the Shield, one piece at a time? Or worse, is he here to tear down Paul Heyman's entire new faction from the inside? No one knows, but one thing is certain: Dean Ambrose didn't return to be welcomed. He returned to be reckoned with, and Raw will never be the same again. There's a strange stillness lingering backstage now. A silence only interrupted by the faint hum of production lights and the sharp, nervous whispers of officials trying to make sense of what happened. Because this wasn't part of the plan. Dean Ambrose wasn't scheduled. His name wasn't on the internal roster. There was no segment prepared. No rehearsed comeback, and that's exactly why it hit like a freight train. It's not just the WWE Universe that was blindsided. Superstars backstage, many of them newer faces who only knew of Ambrose through archived matches and whispered legends, stood in stunned silence as security surrounded Paul Heyman. Some saw it with their own eyes. Others caught it live on the backstage monitors. But all of them, every single one, asked the same question: why now? And perhaps more hauntingly, what's next? Because if Dean Ambrose's return was a message, it wasn't just sent to Heyman. It was sent to everyone who thought this new WWE, this new era of scripted alliances and PR-polished narratives, could move on without reckoning with the ghosts of its past. Dean Ambrose was never just another wrestler. He was an era. A force. A ticking bomb in human form. And when he left, something went with him. A piece of unpredictability. A layer of grit. A feeling that at any moment, everything could fall apart, and that was part of the thrill. So when did it all start to crumble? To understand the fire burning in Ambrose's eyes, we must return to the ashes he left behind. Because the Shield wasn't just a faction, it was a bond. 3 men, born of chaos, forged in steel, united in destruction. They weren't friends. They were brothers. But even the strongest bonds can bend, and when Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins each made their peace with Paul Heyman in one form or another, Ambrose didn't bend. He broke when Seth Rollins aligned with Heyman last year to resurrect what some called the New Authority. Insiders say that was the final spark. To Ambrose, that move wasn't just strategic, it was betrayal. Seth wasn't just shaking hands with a businessman. He was aligning with the very man who helped poison the well between them. Paul Heyman, master manipulator, architect of empires, kingmaker of champions, has always known how to pick his allies. But he also knows how to exploit their weaknesses. And Ambrose? His weakness has always been loyalty. He loved the Shield too much. He bled for it. He destroyed for it. And in the end, he watched as the 2 men he considered family allowed that legacy to be rewritten. Without him. That's what fans didn't see in tonight's return. Behind the fists and fury, behind the security swarming the ring, behind Heyman crawling away, there was heartbreak. A betrayal that festered for years in silence, because Dean Ambrose didn't just leave WWE. He left because something inside him died, and now, it's come back to life. Not as a redemption story, but as a warning. Backstage reports now suggest that Ambrose's return wasn't sanctioned by WWE. Some staff believe he breached the building with the help of a former employee, someone who still holds grudges. One anonymous wrestler, speaking under the condition of anonymity, said they saw Ambrose pacing in the hallway minutes before the attack. He looked calm. But his hands? They were shaking. That's the thing about Dean Ambrose. He doesn't erupt with noise. He simmers. And when he boils over, no one, not even Paul Heyman, is prepared for the fallout. WWE executives are scrambling. Internally, emergency meetings were held immediately after the broadcast ended. Some want to capitalize on the chaos, spinning Ambrose's return into the biggest storyline of the year. Others, especially those aligned with Heyman's backstage power structure, see it as a threat to order. A rogue agent bringing a sledgehammer to a carefully built empire. One thing they all agree on? This wasn't a one-night stunt. This was the start of something bigger and perhaps darker. Because it's not just Heyman who should be worried. Seth Rollins, currently recovering from a devastating knee injury, is reportedly watching closely. According to a backstage correspondent, Rollins didn't take his eyes off the screen the moment Ambrose appeared. Some say he clenched his jaw. Others say he muttered under his breath, "He really did it." That's the weight of this return. It's not nostalgia. It's not a feel-good comeback. It's a reckoning. A warning shot fired from a man who has nothing left to lose. And what about Roman Reigns, the former tribal chief, still mending the fractures within his own bloodline, has yet to speak. But those close to him suggest the moment Ambrose laid hands on Heyman, Roman felt it. Because even in his silence, Reigns knows, Dean Ambrose doesn't attack without reason. If he's come for Heyman, then the Shield's legacy is no longer safe, and that's where this story takes a turn. Because some believe Ambrose isn't here just to wage war. He's here to burn it all down, and build something new in the ashes, something real. Something unfiltered. Something that doesn't answer to factions, brands, or suits in corporate towers. The wrestling world is watching with bated breath. Twitter trends are exploding. Hashtags like #Ambrose returns, #Heyman down, and #Lunatic Fringe reborn are now viral. But behind the spectacle, there's a growing dread. Because everyone knows Dean Ambrose doesn't fight battles. He fights wars, and he never starts one he doesn't intend to finish. As Heyman is reportedly recovering off-site, refusing to comment, the rest of the locker room prepares for fallout. Alliances are shifting. Cameras are watching every entrance. Every shadow in the arena feels heavier because Dean Ambrose is back. And for the first time in years, WWE isn't in control, and maybe that's exactly the way he wants it. In the hours that followed Dean Ambrose's chaotic return, the mood in WWE's inner circle shifted from shock to strategy. Because while the crowd still buzzed with disbelief, and the internet burned with theories, inside Stamford headquarters and the Raw production trucks, conversations turned sharp and quiet. They know what just happened, but what happens next? Dean Ambrose didn't ask permission to re-enter WWE. He didn't come with a storyline. And the terrifying truth is, he doesn't need one. Ambrose is the kind of character that transcends booking sheets. He isn't scripted, and he isn't filtered. He exists outside the lines. Which is exactly what makes him dangerous and irreplaceable. So now the question haunting WWE creative is this: do you try to contain the fire, or do you throw gasoline on it and watch it burn brighter? Early reports from insiders suggest two camps have formed. One, led by traditionalists and longtime Heyman allies, want Ambrose reprimanded, publicly suspended, disciplined. Set an example. The message? WWE doesn't reward chaos. The second group, however, sees a golden opportunity. In an era where authenticity sells better than polish, Dean Ambrose's unscripted rage may be the jolt Raw needs to reclaim its Raw identity. And there's another reason to act fast. SummerSlam is weeks away. The timing couldn't be more provocative. With Seth Rollins sidelined due to a fractured knee and Roman Reigns navigating a brutal civil war within the bloodline, the stage is wide open. A power vacuum. A perfect storm. And Dean Ambrose? He just walked in with lightning in his hands. Speculation is already swirling that Ambrose could be inserted into a high-stakes, unsanctioned match at SummerSlam. No rules. No build-up. Just fury unleashed. But who would stand across the ring from him? Some suggest Braun Breaker, the enforcer of Paul Heyman's latest faction and the man who recently assaulted Seth Rollins. A monster backed by Heyman himself. A monster that now may have a target on his back. Others whisper about something more haunting, a confrontation between Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. Think about it. Two former brothers. Two broken paths. One has become a self-declared tribal chief. The other? A rogue with no tribe. Their history is carved into WWE's foundation. Their chemistry, unmatched. And their differences now, irreconcilable. Roman Reigns has been silent so far. No tweets. No video response. Nothing. But if you know Roman, you know this isn't apathy. This is calculation. He's watching. Listening. Waiting for his moment, because if Ambrose's return threatens the legacy of the Shield, it threatens Roman's story. And Roman always protects his story even if it means crushing the man who once called him brother. But if Roman steps in, that would leave one haunting gap in this triangle. Seth Rollins, sidelined, vulnerable, perhaps more broken than either of them, could very well be the final trigger. Because Dean Ambrose didn't just come for Paul Heyman. He came to take back everything that was stolen in his absence: respect, legacy, brotherhood, all of it. And that makes his next move unpredictable. According to one WWE writer who spoke under anonymity, the production team was told to prepare alternate Raw segments for next week in case Ambrose appears again, unannounced. No music. No warning. Just chaos, which begs the question, what if Ambrose isn't playing their game at all? What if he's building his own? Think about it. He hasn't spoken a word. He hasn't posted online. No press interviews. No backstage selfies. Just one assault. One act of war. And in wrestling, silence is its own language. The Shield once stood for unity, justice, brotherhood in black. But tonight, we're seeing the painful truth: brotherhood dies in silence, and Dean Ambrose has returned not to resurrect it, but to mourn it, because maybe the only way to honor what they had is to burn down what remains. One thing is clear: WWE fans are no longer asking if Ambrose will return next week. They're asking where. Will he crash SmackDown? Will he appear in the parking lot? Will he show up mid-match, mid-interview, mid-promo, and strike, because when you're dealing with Dean Ambrose, the plan is always simple, there is no plan, and that's what makes him so feared. Superstars are watching their backs now. Those who once laughed at Ambrose's unpredictability now walk through backstage tunnels glancing over their shoulders. No one knows whose side he's on, because he may not even be on his own side. He's a weapon with no safety, and Paul Heyman lit the fuse. There's a rumor, a chilling one, circulating among those closest to creative, that Ambrose's attack wasn't spontaneous. That he's been watching, plotting, even infiltrating WWE systems under a pseudonym for weeks. One source claims footage was scrubbed from last week's live Raw feed, blurry camera shots of a hooded figure in the upper levels of the arena. Was it Ambrose? And if it was, what else has he seen? Some believe Ambrose is planning more than revenge. He may be gathering allies. Forgotten souls, cast-offs, those who share his grudge against Heyman and the current regime. A new faction, or something worse, a one-man war with no finish line, because here's what they don't understand. Dean Ambrose didn't come back to win titles. He came back to make noise. To remind the world that not all monsters wear crowns. Some wear scars, and those scars, never fully heal. So as WWE tries to recalibrate, to regain its narrative, to control the fallout, one truth remains unshakable: Dean Ambrose controls the chaos now, and for the first time in years, Raw feels truly alive. SummerSlam is approaching like a freight train, and WWE, still reeling from Dean Ambrose's ambush, finds itself at a crossroads. In a company that thrives on control, order, and the illusion of predictability, Ambrose has shattered the glass. There are no more rules now. Only tremors. And those tremors are beginning to shake the pillars of power. This is no longer just about Ambrose and Heyman, this is about everyone. Behind the curtain, there is tension, thick, unspoken, but unmistakable. WWE management is scrambling to draft a plan. But how do you write a storyline for a man who doesn't want one? How do you direct a force that doesn't take cues? One WWE official was overheard saying, "We didn't rehire Dean. Dean rehired himself." And with each passing day, the pressure grows, because SummerSlam isn't just the next pay-per-view. It's the battleground. The global stage. And the perfect place for vengeance. Right now, creative is locked in meetings, the whiteboards cluttered with possibilities. 3 names dominate the board: Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. 3 brothers. 3 paths. And only one ring. Seth Rollins remains in rehab, his fractured knee still not cleared for action. But if you believe the whispers, he's pushing doctors. Accelerating recovery. Because he knows. He knows Ambrose's return isn't just a ghost from the past, it's a fire aimed at his legacy. And Roman Reigns has gone dark. No tweets. No public appearances. No bloodline segments. Nothing, just silence, and in that silence, WWE officials are terrified, because when Reigns is quiet, he's thinking, and when he's thinking, someone's in trouble. Reports from insiders close to Reigns suggest he took Ambrose's return personally. Not because he fears him, but because he never expected him to return at all. To Reigns, Ambrose was a chapter closed. A warrior lost to chaos. A brother swallowed by his own fire. But now, that fire is back, and it's burning toward everything Roman has built: his empire, his authority, his throne. If there's one thing Roman Reigns has learned from Paul Heyman, it's this: control the narrative. And right now, Ambrose is rewriting the story, with blood. So what's next? There's talk, unconfirmed but persistent, that SummerSlam may see the unthinkable: Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose, not for a title, not for a contract, but for something far more primal, for legacy. The Shield began with destruction, it may end the same way, and if Seth Rollins isn't cleared by SummerSlam, sources say he may still make a live appearance. Not to wrestle, but to choose a side. And that might be the most explosive moment of all, because Seth Rollins has always been the glue. The architect. The one who shattered the Shield the first time with a steel chair to Ambrose's spine. And no matter how many years pass, that moment remains branded in their history. Ambrose never forgot, Rollins never forgave himself, and Reigns? He tried to forget, but you can't forget your origin, not when it's chasing you down. WWE is already teasing the audience. Ambrose's footage is replayed with glitch effects. The Shield's old theme plays faintly in arena rehearsals. Even WWE's official account has stopped referring to him as Jon Moxley. He is, once again, Dean Ambrose, and that name alone carries weight. It's the name of the man who fought Brock Lesnar with nothing but a barbed wire bat, the man who went toe-to-toe with Cena and Triple H with madness in his eyes, the man who once cashed in Money in the Bank and became champion, only to walk away from it all when the system betrayed him. That man is back. And this time, he's not asking for gold. He's asking for retribution. One WWE source revealed that Paul Heyman has been lobbying behind the scenes to keep Ambrose away from his new stable. Why? Because he's not afraid Ambrose will beat them. He's afraid Ambrose will unravel them. Braun Breaker. Austin Theory. Even Gunther, they're soldiers in Heyman's machine. But Ambrose? He's the wrench in the gears. The storm they didn't see coming. And Heyman knows better than anyone, you can't manipulate madness. So what are we heading toward? WWE's latest creative leaks suggest one of two possible SummerSlam endgames: Dean Ambrose vs. Braun Breaker, an unsanctioned fight, no rules, no countouts. A statement match. Chaos Unleashed. Roman Reigns confronts Ambrose live, not in a match, but in a moment designed to explode. Two former brothers, face-to-face, with nothing left to lose. The second option could lead to the biggest WrestleMania setup in years, because what if Ambrose's return doesn't end at SummerSlam? What if it starts there? What if this is the first beat in a symphony of violence, building toward one final reckoning between the three men who once ruled WWE from the shadows, the Shield, Final Judgment? Imagine it. Ambrose, Reigns, Rollins. WrestleMania 41.3 Kings. One ring. No allies. No escape. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, because right now, the only certainty is uncertainty. Ambrose has vanished since the attack. No appearances. No confirmations. He may appear again next week. He may not. That's the problem and the brilliance, because the second Dean Ambrose can be predicted, he stops being Dean Ambrose. This is not a redemption story. It's not a comeback tale. It's not nostalgia. This is vengeance. This is chaos. This is the return of a man WWE could never control, and if they're smart, they won't try to. Because Dean Ambrose didn't come back to be part of the show. He came back to blow it wide open.